Our next speaker is Toshihiro Kaneko-san, Chief Counsel. He'll talk about and introduce the concept of study in Japan. Toshihiro Kaneko-san, please come to the dais. Toshihiro Kaneko-san is the Chief Counsel and Deputy Chief of Mission, Consul General of Japan in Mumbai. He is a career bureaucrat and he has worked in many places, Kuwait, USA, Philippines, and Japan as well. And just a coincidence, when I was in Japan and lived in a place, he also spent some time there. So that's a small connection I have with him. And you can know more about his CV in internet, but one important thing you must know that as part of his hobby or when he gets a free time, he likes to practice or play sumagato harp. Sumagato harp, a classical Japanese musical instrument, and also likes to practice kendo, which is martial arts with bamboo sticks. With such a kind personality and vivid personality, I request Toshihiro Kaneko-san to give his speech.
Good morning. Namaste, namaskar. Konnichiwa Pune. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Deshmukh-san, President IJBC, Chaudhary-san, Vice President, the board members of Indo-Japan Business Council, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me and giving me a good opportunity to speak about the Japanese education today. First of all, because before I talk about the study in Japan, I would like to briefly explain to you about the connections between Japan and India relationship. As was been introduced, this year is very, very important for Japan and India relationship. This year commemorates 70th anniversary of diplomatic relationship between Japan and India. Japan and India has a long history which started in 6th century and has been continuing over 1,500 years since when Buddhism arrived in Japan, which is born in India. In this regard, Indian Buddhist monk came to Japanese ancient capital, Nara, and opened the eyes of giant Buddha, which still exists, which was a striking event in this history. Looking at the modern history, I would also like to point out that the Indian West Coast is very important in Japan-India relationship. Modern history of Japan-India relationship had started from Mumbai when Tat family, in collaboration with Japanese companies, commenced cotton trade by establishing regular shipping route between Mumbai and Kobe under Nippon Yusen Company in 1893. The Consulate General of Japan in Mumbai was established in the same year. By the way, I am from Kobe, and I grew up with the Indian community there from my childhood. Now, friendly Japan-India relationship is very important for free and open Indo-Pacific policy Japan promotes strongly, which is a key for stability and prosperity of the international community. So that's the importance of Japan and India relationship. So now I would like to introduce to you about the studying in Japan. I was thinking about, as a Japanese, how I can promote study in Japan. Why I'd like you to study in Japan. I thought about the reason why. Then I come up to the appealing points, what I think of. That the Japan, as was explained to, but a popular study abroad destination. After you study Japan, and especially you master Japanese language, you will be able to get employment opportunities at good Japanese companies. Secondly, you can engage with Japanese culture, cuisine, and language. Recently, animation, manga, pop culture are quite popular. So you can directly touch on those rich culture from the ancient period towards the up to now. Thirdly, Japan is very safe and very convenient life environment you can experience. You will not experience establishing your life environment, you will not come across hardship. Then the infrastructure was there, yes, very, very good. When you look at Tokyo, people don't have to own cars. You can commute by subways, buses. The public transportations are very, very well developed. Then cheap, too. The subway runs like every 2-3 minutes. Buses also. Network is very, very diverse and goes everywhere. Fourthly, Japanese education. The price-wise, it's very moderate. The tuition price is very, very economical compared to the United States. For example, if you look at the Ivy League colleges, it's going to cost like $50,000 US only a tuition a year. In the UK, probably about half price, $25,000 US. But in Japan, even when you go to the private universities, it will be like $10,000 US, maybe now much less. If you go to national public universities, half, $5,000 US a year tuition. You can be available of the very good education in moderate pricing. So that's what I thought about the appealing points, why I promote Japan for your study destinations. Now, then I would like to touch on what is Japan. When you look at the slides, these are the facts and figures. Little difficult to grasp, but maybe you'd be able to think that the gross national income is world number 3. And we have a lot of culture and natural heritages. widely recognized. And average life expectancy is now number 2. Unfortunately, it wasn't taken over by the Hong Kong recently, but we live long. That means that we live very comfortable, stressless life in Japan. Then we have a lot of Nobel Prize winners, especially in science and technology. The distance from here to Japan, you would think that when you look at the figure, 6,660 kilometers, it's, wow, very far. But when you look at the major study destinations, New York, London, Germany, Berlin, Australia, Sydney, they are much far. So, what's about Japanese education? We have 807 Japanese universities, 4-year colleges. We have a lot of public universities, national universities, public universities, then private universities. 2-year college, community college, 309. Then we have colleges of technology. That is high school 3 years plus 2 years technology education for community college level. Then you can transfer. After you expertised in those technology fields, you can easily transfer to a good 4-year universities, the latter half of 2 years education. Then we also have more specialized training colleges. It's more on the vocational colleges. They are accredited diploma schools 2 years after high school. Currently, international students studying in Japan, 242,000 about, approximately. So let's look at Japan and India comparison. India is 8 times larger than Japan. Japan is, in terms of the territory, small land. Population, we have about a lot of population, I mean big population in Japan, but India will be the biggest population probably next year. So 10 times here in India. In Japan, we speak basically one language, Japanese language, but at the same time, as with India, we have a lot of dialects. But basically, all over Japan, you can communicate each other by using your own dialect. Yeah, so India, you have over 15 languages. Then in terms of economy, 4,900, almost 5,000 billion US dollars in Japan GDP, and the India 3,000, about 200. GDP per capita, how much the individual earn? In Japan, about 40,000 US dollars a year. India, 2,300 about. Then I mentioned about the life expectancy. There is not much difference. Japan, 85 years, and India's about 70 years. So that's the kind of general picture how both countries are. Then when you look at the demography, you see totally opposite. Japan is aging society. India, with young, a lot of young, a large population, very energetic, vigorous society. So now you can fill the gap of study in Japan. Japanese colleges are looking for students, good students. I explained about the historical part of Japan-India relationship, but in terms of economy and also the support of assistance to India, Japan is very important, I would say. Japan has been extending Japanese developmental official assistance. We call it official development assistance, ODA, to India since 1958. Mostly Japanese ODA's assistance are loan form. Grant aid also, and those aids have been extended through JICA. You might have heard that that's a subsidiary organization of Japanese Foreign Ministry, which I belong to. Then we extend a lot of assistance in the fields of transportation, power, irrigation, environment, investment, promotion. Then yesterday I mentioned about the big project in this region that, for example, Ahmedabad, Mumbai high-speed railway, bullet train, the Shinkansen. That is ongoing and will be completed, expected first phase 2026. Metro 3 subway connects Sudeep to south of Kolaba, which will be connected with the high-speed railway. Mumbai Trans-Harbour Bridge, that will connect Mumbai and actually Pune. Now it will take like 4 hours to travel by car, but by taking that bridge, it's gonna be like maybe half, combined with the sea link. So we have been, Japan, the Japanese government has been working on promoting the convenient, smooth movement of people, goods, and services here in this region in India. Then you look at the graph, but the assistance India has been, the Japan is extending 14% of total assistance of Japan. Then Japan shares 46% of assistance India receives from the world. As was also mentioned about, but when you look at the number of students studying in Japan from India, unfortunately now 32 ranking in ranking. The Indian people, I was amazed, but you go variety of destinations for study. That's really amazing. But I would like to encourage you to choose Japan. In this region, South Asia, you look at the number of students studying in Japan from India compared to other countries. I don't know why, but comparatively small. Why is it? Maybe our promotion might not be efficient enough, but I would like you to become interested, because the reason why you're gathering here is because you are interested in Japan. So that's brought you here. That's what I'm really pleased about. So I explained about the merits of the studying in Japan, so I skip this slide. And I talked about the safetyness of Japan. You see this, would you know what is this? Anybody? Yeah, okay, please. Okay, yeah, I direct the Indian, yeah, please, yeah. Yeah, that's right, in English too, please. Yeah, vending machine. You see? All the sales items are stored in this machine. Then nobody steals. Money too. The people paid money, then money will go inside and stored, but nobody take. That's a kind of typical, I mean, you can see this vending machine everywhere in Japan, on the streets. Really everywhere. So you can buy those items 24 hours. Even some vending machines carry food, bread, snacks, even instant noodles. Some cases like small kind of toys. Many items are sold in those machines throughout Japan. So now, if you become interested in studying in Japan, how you can do that? That's what I'm going to explain about. I think that you got this sheet with QR codes. This is very important, so please do not lose. This information, from here, you can access the websites, what I'm going to explain about. So, how you can study in Japan? You can get information about, in general, from the website Study in Japan. And the booklet Study in Japan for Indian applicants. That's been made by the Japanese embassy in New Delhi. But you can look at it through these QR codes. After you learn how you will go to study in Japan, what is the Japanese education when you study is like, search for Japanese schools. So how you can do it? We have search tools. Japan Study Support, Japanese college and university portals. You can search for what kind of university, colleges, and others exist in Japan. Then, now, you look at what fields of study you'd like to study, who the professors, the teachers, what kind of people you can get in those fields. You can search through Siny. Siny is very famous for searching for the academic articles, but recently many Japanese researchers also put on their products on this database. Then also research map. And also, of course, after you found the universities, colleges, the schools you'd like to study, you can search on those websites. Now, how to finance? As I mentioned, the tuition price will be moderate in Japan, but there are scholarship opportunities. In Japan, I'm also I envied when I was a student the foreign students, because for Japanese, there is no free scholarship at all. But for foreign students, abundant, especially the government scholarships exist. So you can avail those scholarships. MEX scholarship means that the Japanese government scholarship, that represents the Ministry of Education. And the Japan Student Services Organization, we call it JASO. Local government scholarships, and other private foundations. There, of course, exist Lion Clubs and other organizations which extend scholarships among private entities. Then we also have, for self-financing students, considering the financial situation, we have tuition fee reduction and exemption schemes. Those scholarships, you can search on the scholarship for international students in Japan. You can look at all those information materials through the QR code sheet. So what kind of Japanese government scholarships are available? We have research category. That's for graduate studies, masters and PhDs. And undergraduate, 4-year college. Then College of Technology. This category scholarship mentions 3 years, but that's considered as for the applicants who graduated from high school. So this school in Japan has 5 years normally, but 1 year study Japanese language plus 2 years, first 2 years college education for technology. Then specialized training college. It's more on the vocational school, normally 2 years. And other than these, we have category for Japanese culture and the Japanese language. That's 1 year. Teacher training, that's for the teachers who are teaching at schools. They can get teacher training education at Japanese universities, colleges. And young leaders program, that's for those who have already started working and accumulating your career. Then you can go to graduate studies under this program. So those are the categories of the scholarships the Japanese government is offering. Oh. If you have any questions, you can contact with the Consulate General of Japan in Mumbai from Pune. The consulate in Mumbai covers Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Goa states. So those who reside in those states, please contact with my consulate. Now, I would like to emphasize the importance of studying Japanese language. That is really the key for success in studying in Japan. And I noticed that today, among you, the audience, there are many people who have already started and mastered some Japanese language. Yeah, that's very, very good. Of course, that many Japanese people speak English. However, at the same time, Japanese language is a very, very useful tool to study at colleges, schools. And communicating in daily life. As a start, Japan Foundation, it's a subsidiary organization of the Japanese Foreign Ministry again, promoting Japanese culture, Japanese language, Japanese studies, which provides 2 online tools as a start. So you can access Minato and Irodori. Why they put this name as just only in Japanese, but Minato is, I think, that a port, so that this is a kind of anchor which you can study Japanese language. Then the Irodori is a variety, variety of the color variety, so that you can learn the daily conversation from the second Minato, the Irodori website. I hope that this will not become a discouragement, but I would need to also mention that the education in Japan are provided by Japanese language. Not all. Of course, we have programs offered in English, but majority of the schools are teaching in Japanese, because that's Japanese educational institutions. So, for example, like the number of students, foreign students studying at each level, the undergraduate, number of courses accepting international student in Japanese cities, undergraduate about 6,000. MA master program 5,250, the doctorate about 4,000. And among those, the number of programs taught in Japanese are, as you can see. So it means that undergraduate 97%, master program 82%, doctorate is 73%. This fact, because I'd like you to be ready and know that you would need Japanese language. And mastery of Japanese language is really the success for your study and building up your career in Japan. Studying in Japan on the ground will give you much more variety of opportunities for you to be able to get good future careers. So therefore, I would like to recommend you to study Japanese language. I myself also went to study overseas by my personal financing after I worked for several years. And at the time when I went, it was full of, dream. I'm gonna be having a very good, interesting future studying overseas. That is true. But at the same time, you would need to face that, reality too. Of course, because you're studying your non-native language overseas. So you're gonna be experiencing very, very hard time at the same time. And the way they write the academic articles, that way of teaching, communicating with different students, colleagues with different cultural backgrounds, that's enjoyable, but at the same time, sometimes, it's new challenge. But once you overcome, you're going to be very satisfied and happy about. So please try the new world by opening up yourself. And the Japanese government, the Japanese people are really would love to welcome you from India. I personally look forward to meet you in Japan. I hope you would remember we met here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toshihiro Kaneko-san, for this lucid presentation on study in Japan. I'll just add one statistics, and I don't think I'm wrong. Every young person pass out from college in Japan every youth has 1.3 job in his or her hand. So this is the kind of career prospects person have got in Japan. Thank you so much. Now coming next is something coming from the very ground level. We have an eminent professor, Dr. Rajiv Shaw from Keio University, Japan. He'll talk about higher education in Japan in an evolving digital world. Dr. Shah, please come to the stage. His details are available. I don't want to take time. In the interest of time, I don't talk more about his biodata. He has a huge credential in terms of teaching and research and publications, and he is visiting faculty in India in many institutes. One important thing which may not be available, he is a person, he inspires anyone whom you meet. If you go and meet him, he'll inspire you. But he's humble enough to meet young people always. I asked him what is his success cause. He loves to meet young people, and he says that he draws inspiration from them. Thank you so much, Dr. Rajiv Shah. Please come.
Thank you very much. A very good morning to all of you, and namaste. His Excellency Chief Consul Toshihiro Kaneko-san, then Dr. Milind Pandey, Pro-VC of MIT WPU, my friends from IJBC, Siddharth ji, Sudhir ji, Abhishek ji, colleagues, ladies, gentlemen, and dear students. Thank you. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Well, in the first slide, what you see here is that although I belong to Keio University in the Graduate School of Media and Governance, where I'm a professor, but I have several other hats. I work very closely with the United Nations, especially on the science technology interface, and there is this advisory group also with the IPCC, so where I talk about more science policy interface. Then I established a small startup, very small startup based in Delhi, which is this Resilience Innovation Knowledge Academy. So it's more on the specific innovation and the private sector involvement. And then I also had two NGO, which is non-profit, non-government organization, which are Japanese NGOs, SEEDS Asia and CWS Japan. The reason actually I'm talking this one is possibly this is not just my introduction. Many of my colleagues in my university, Keio University, has possibly similar type of hats. So it's not, the implication there is that academics or the higher education is not just about teaching in the university. You need to go beyond the university, cross the boundaries of the university, work with the civil society, work with the government, and work with the private sector. And that's possibly the nature of education we try to promote in Japan. Well, you heard about the Monbusho Scholarship, many of you know. I went to Japan 28 years back. Many, maybe before many of you were born. I went there in 1994 with the Ministry of Education, Monbusho Scholarship. I never imagined that I will stay there that long, but it just happened like that. But why I put this word called in an evolving digital world, because when I went, the type of higher education in Japan and what is currently happening is quite different. And possibly we need to understand that particular context, that we are really living in a very highly connected digital world. And this whole education system has a major implication for that. A few statistics, like as you know that in the global internet user, Asia has the largest number of internet users. It's almost 2.56 billion. So 60% of the world's internet users are from Asia. And of course, you can imagine it's shared within China and Japan. Yes, this is 37% of the internet users are from China, 24% from India, and as far the population goes. But in Japan, almost 5%, like it's the total percentage out of the Asia. This was the 2021 data. So, of course, we are very much focusing on different types of digital world, and possibly many informations are easily available. So, it's not a prescriptive way of telling things. It's more like you will be able to actually search from the different types of information which is available. So that's one context. My second context of putting it is that I don't know how many of you have heard this word called Generation Z. How many of you? Okay. You know, like this is the new generations. Many of you actually belong to it. Well, I belong to which one? That is Generation X, between 65 to 1980. That's where I was born. But if you see, I think many of our students here, many of you are possibly born in that particular generation, which is Generation Z, between 1997 and 2012. Why it's this difference is that when I went to Japan, that time we just started operating the PC. Internet was still not that much. We didn't have mobile phone. But I think many of you were born with this one, not just mobile phone, but smartphone. And there is a major difference between that who were born with a non-digital world and those who are born with this one, because there are quite a bit of new research which has gone into the implication of higher education for you, the Generation Z. And many of you possibly don't like that a professor is giving lecture and showing PowerPoints and torturing you with PowerPoints. Of course, yes, there are some basic things possibly we need to tell, the very basic background. But possibly you will be more happy if it is like, if the university provides you more freedom to do your own path. And that's possibly the new type of education what, at least in my university, what we are trying to promote. I strongly believe in that particular principles, that we don't give you a prescribed curriculum. There are a sort of more or less broader curriculum. There are a few compulsory courses, but you develop your own curriculum, of course with certain guidance, certain mentoring from the professors, and that you follow your own passion, that's what you'd like to do. And I think that's a very important part of this new generation education, and that is only possible because of this new digital connectivity. We do lots of teaching on what we call the experiential learning. Like you do the specific internship, or you work with the community and try to develop what we call the co-design and co-delivery of different types of innovation. Many of you possibly heard our earlier speaker, Dr. Milinji, also pointed out about Education 4.0. In Japan, we strongly try to promote the Society 5.0, which is again a very new digitally connected society, but one of the very important part is that it's an human-centric society. And we strongly urge that the students, the young generations, has a very, very strong role to play in this important part. It's not just the technology, but human-centric, technologically connected society. You developed lots of new technology, not just for not just for the sake of developing the technology, but how you actually utilize that. You know that we often use so-called the technology developer, we often use the word called the last mile connectivity, where we think that we are the mile zero and the users are the last mile. I think in Japan's education now, at least there has been a strong change to change that last mile to the first mile, to put the user, the community, the customer as your mile zero. See that what are the different types of demands, what are the gaps, and then try to co-design and make your own different types of innovation. And for that, the Society 5.0 plays a very, very important role. I won't go into the detail of the Society 5.0, but you can see that from 1.0, which was the hunting society, to agriculture-based 2.0, then industry 3.0, the current one 4.0, which is the information, and 5.0 is the super smart society. So there have been lots of work going on in a broader aspects of the Society 5.0, and higher education, again, plays a very, very important part of it. Last year, after lots of work, Japan has established the Japan has established is digital agency, which is directly under the Prime Minister's office, and to make this huge digitization drive all over Japan. And definitely, again, higher education is becoming one of the major factor for that. Yeah, so the photo which you are seeing in the left-hand side, his name is Professor Jun Murai. He is my colleague in Keio University. And he is called the father of internet in Japan. So he was the person who brought internet to Japan back in 1980s, actually, late 1980s. And so he was one of the major driver about this digital agency. And in our university, but also all over Japan, he is trying to promote this different concept of higher education. So I think when we talk about this 5, 10, and 20 years down the line, I think this immersive learning play a very, very important role. And earlier, our chief counsel has very elaborately pointed out why you should be coming to Japan with all different statistics. But what I would like to argue here is that, yes, apart from those statistics also, Japan provides a great opportunity for immersive learning. It's your choice, it's your interest which should drive it. It's not the university curriculum which should drive your higher education. And that's, again, another possibly additional reason why you should come to Japan. And I won't possibly go through the statistics, but we have seen earlier also that still, even with all this India-Japan bilateral collaboration, strategic partnership, very important strategic partnership of the leaders, still I think foreign residents in Japan, if you see, the India comes now, like after many countries, and also international students, obviously China, Vietnam, Nepal, Korea, Taiwan, they are higher, but even like say for example, Uzbekistan, Mongolia, Malaysia, the Indian students even come after that. So possibly we are not doing enough. When I say we, I include Japanese universities, because this can't be done only by the government, and government can provide certain, they can open certain door, they can give you the visa, they can give you the scholarship, but that's not all about education. You need to know more about the Japanese universities. And I'm very happy that my colleague from University of Tokyo is also here. I wish that there are more universities from Japan who come here in this type of occasion. And you should know about the variation, the diversity of the education system in Japan. And the similar thing also happened. Like, I don't think that there are so many Japanese, we see in the audience a few Japanese colleagues here who are residing possibly in Pune, but still I think it's quite less. And I don't have the statistics of the Japanese students studying in India. I'm sure that it should be very, very less. So it's not just one way. I think it needs to be both way. And keeping that in mind, I'd like to just give very briefly about Keio University's introduction and the work which we try to promote there. So it was this, it's one of the oldest private university established in 1858. And I love to show this 10,000 yen Japanese note, where you see our founder, Yukiichi Fukuzawa. But I think this note will be now changed. There is no new more printing of 10,000 yen note. So you will possibly see a different person coming in the 10,000 yen note. But the point is that it was quite old university. We have different campuses around Tokyo. And my campus, where this India-Japan laboratory is based, we call the Sonan Fujisawa campus, which is around 1 hour train from Tokyo. But it's interesting is that a little bit outskirt of Tokyo, quite green, but many of our students, they actually commute from Tokyo and the surrounding area. A few facts and figure is that we have 2,000 plus faculty member. Student-faculty ratio is 15:1, around 37,000 students and so on. And I again love showing this one. Like, I was, before joining, as I mentioned, that out of my 28 years of experience, I have been in the academic field for last 18 years. I was a professor in Kyoto University for 13 years and in Keio for last 5 years. So we used to say that Kyoto produced largest number of Nobel laureates in Japan. University of Tokyo produced the largest number of prime minister and bureaucrats and politicians in Japan. And Keio produced the largest number of company CEO of Japan. So the most of these major companies, their CEOs come from Keio. But what does it mean is that possibly our education in Keio is more entrepreneurship based. Of course, the basic education is very important, and that's possibly the core of the higher education, the basic science, but also to develop the entrepreneur mindset among the young students. I think that's equally important. So this is our campus, Keio University's India-Japan Laboratory. It's a very new entity. It's only 3-year-old. And the important part is that we have 3 major pillars in this whole group. The pillar which you see in the middle, which is focusing on the existing, new, and emerging technology. We have lots of people who works on the data science, IoTs, robotics, and all these emerging technologies. I personally work on the left-hand side. My background is on the disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptations, environment, sustainable development. And also I have a colleague here, her name is Akiko Kato. She will do she is a certified yoga teacher, and certification comes from Ministry of Ayush, and she actually looks after on the right-hand side, which is on culture, yoga, history, art, and so on. After this 2019, after our establishment, we are very passionate. We wanted to do many things, but then what we saw in 2020, 21, this COVID-19, so we had to change lots of our programs online. Initially, we were planning for lots of student exchange, face-to-face, direct student exchange, but then we had to actually turn all those things to more online exercise. So we did little bit of work with some of the universities here. One of my very I won't give all the examples. You can actually look at, if you Google India-Japan Laboratory, Keio University, you will be able to find the website, and most of the information is there. But this was, we found it a very, very interesting work. We did with the Social Innovation Online Hackathon. And there we worked with 4 Indian universities, 2 IITs, IIT Hyderabad and Roorkee, and 2 NIT. One was in Nagpur and another one is in Durgapur. And we tried to focus on the 6 different SDG, Sustainable Development Goal. And there were in total around 45 students, Japanese and Indian students, and they focused on different types of innovations on these themes. You can see from theme 1 to 6, which are the sustainable development goal themes. And the interesting part of this was that it was a 2.5-month exercise. Students from many different disciplines. There were 13 different disciplines from where the students came. Some were engineering, some were architecture, planning, social science, humanities, geography, and so on. And we found that when we have this type of cross-learning among different disciplines, when we have cross-learning among different culture, possibly they can produce miracle, which I can never do by giving a boring PowerPoint presentation in my lecture. If I give a PowerPoint presentation, half of my students, they go to sleep. But when the same student, when they come and interact with our Indian student, I think the vitality, their inspiration, and this whole innovation potentials which we saw was amazing. And we also were very fortunate to have different mentors. We had some mentors from Keidanren. Keidanren is the Japan Business Council. We also had some mentor from FICCI, which is the Indian counterpart, and also from the UN, because it was more on the development field. So this is just an example just to show that this immense potential of this cross-learning. And this is my last slide, and I always encourage the science-based entrepreneurship. We heard about a little bit in the previous presentations also. Like, I think it's not only just being getting a degree or looking for a job, but I think how you utilize your knowledge, your wisdom, your whole higher education into more an entrepreneurship mindset. And I will say that Japan has that Japan is possibly a classic example for that. Yes, there are challenges, as our chief counsel pointed out. There will be challenges. Don't take it that, okay, it will be a smooth journey, but all of you are much tougher to overcome those challenges. So with that, I strongly encourage you to think about for your future potentials for higher studies in Japan. There are many, many different options. Don't think that for Japan, oh, I have to always learn the language. Yes, language, if you can learn, that's definitely good. But there are lots of English language courses also, which you can start with, and then gradually start learning the language. Of course, if you know Japanese language, that is definitely a big asset. You will have more Japanese boyfriend or girlfriend. Your social life will be much better. You will go for good drinking places, good food places. You can order whatever you want. You know that whether if you are a vegetarian, you will be able to know the menu, whether it is the vegetarian menu, or you can ask the people. So that's your social part will definitely be very good. But it's not just the language. It's your passion and it's your innovation potential. So with that, thank you very much once again. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv Shah, for this inspirational presentation. This higher education is really important, and you must have heard right that the top university of Japan, the way they produce CEOs, Nobel laureate, and the policymakers. And we are fortunate that we have the representative from all three, present and past, currently with us. Thank you so much.